She found three identical toddlers crying in the park, hungry, lost, and terrified. She didn't know their father was the most dangerous man in the city, and he'd burned down half of it to get them back. If this story has you hooked, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We noticed 99.9% of viewers haven't subscribed yet, and your support truly helps us stay creative and avoid burnout. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, because tomorrow I've got another story coming that's just as thrilling, maybe even better. You definitely don't want to miss it. Alright, back to the story. Don Jason Moretti, tattooed, wheelchair-bound from a past assassination attempt, and dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit, receiving the call that stops his heart. His 3-year-old triplets, Marco, Luca, and Matteo, have vanished during a park visit. His security team lost them when a Rossini family distraction scattered his men. Across the city, Precious finishes her shift at a children's advocacy center, her mind on the grant proposal waiting at home. Walking through the park as a shortcut, she discovers 3 small boys with identical tear-stained faces and expensive clothes, huddled terrified beneath a playground slide. When she kneels and asks where their parents are, they can't explain. They're too young, too scared. The smallest one, Matteo, whispers, "Hungry." Precious doesn't hesitate. She takes their hands and leads them to her modest apartment, feeds them pancakes, and sings them a lullaby. She doesn't know their father. She doesn't know that the most dangerous man in the city is mobilizing every resource to find his sons. And she doesn't know that when he finds them in her care, everything in her carefully planned, principled life is about to explode. Jason mobilizes his entire organization. Every street soldier, every corrupt cop on his payroll, every surveillance system is activated. His fury is cold and absolute. Someone took his children. His wheelchair doesn't slow him. If anything, it makes him more terrifying. The chair is reinforced titanium, custom-built, and he moves through his world with lethal efficiency despite the mobility limitations from the bullet that shattered his spine 3 years ago. Meanwhile, Precious sits cross-legged on her apartment floor with 3 toddlers who've stopped crying and started eating. They can't tell her their full names or address, but they know they're brothers. They mix English with Italian words she doesn't understand. She calls the police non-emergency line to report found children. Jason's tech specialist intercepts the call, traces the address immediately. 20 minutes later, Jason arrives with 6 armed men. They don't knock. The door crashes inward, hinges splintering. Jason rolls through, gun drawn, expecting the worst, a ransom scheme, a Rossini trap, his sons being used as bait. Instead, he finds his sons asleep on a stranger's worn couch, covered with a hand-knitted blanket, their bellies full. The small apartment smells like pancakes and safety. Precious stands between him and the children, 5'4" of righteous fury, fearless despite the gun. "Who the hell are you?" she demands. "You can't just break into someone's home." Jason lowers his weapon slowly, stunned. His sons look peaceful, more peaceful than they ever look at home, where armed guards patrol the hallways and tension hangs in the air like smoke. "Those are my sons," he says, his voice rough. Precious's eyes narrow. She takes in the wheelchair, the tattoos crawling up his neck, the expensive suit, the dangerous men flanking him. Then where were you when they were lost and crying in the park? It's the first time in a decade anyone has questioned Don Jason Moretti with such brazen directness. And somehow, he doesn't know how to respond. Within the hour, Jason's men have confirmed Precious's identity. She's nobody, just a social worker from Los Angeles on a professional fellowship, no criminal connections, no debts, no schemes. She simply helped 3 lost children because it was the right thing to do. Jason offers her money. A substantial amount. Enough to fund her dream children's shelter in United States times over. Precious refuses, insulted. They're children, not a business transaction. Jason is intrigued despite himself. No one refuses him. Ever. The boys wake from their nap and run immediately to Precious, not their father. "Nice lady." Matteo squeals, wrapping his arms around her legs. Marco and Luca follow, all 3 clinging to this stranger with an ease that cuts Jason deeper than any bullet. They're never that relaxed with him. He sees the evidence now. The way they tense when he enters a room, the way they watch him with careful, wary eyes, the way they've learned not to make too much noise around him. His sons lost their mother 2 years ago during childbirth complications. Since then, they've cycled through 7 nannies. None lasted more than 3 months. The boys are labeled difficult, clingy, anxious, prone to nightmares and separation anxiety. But with this stranger, they're laughing. Jason makes a decision that surprises even his men. He offers Precious a job as their nanny. She refuses immediately. "I have a job. I have a life." He leans forward in his wheelchair, his voice low and honest in a way he rarely allows. "My sons need stability. They've attached to you in 3 hours. They don't attach to anyone." He pauses, then adds with surprising vulnerability, "The people who tried to take them today are still out there. They're traumatized. I can provide security, money, resources. But I can't provide what you just gave them in a few hours. Whatever that is." Precious looks at the 3 little boys watching this exchange with wide, anxious eyes. She sees their fear that this moment of safety will end, that the nice lady will disappear like everyone else. "1 week," she says finally. "I'll stay for 1 week while you find someone permanent. But I have conditions." Jason almost smiles. "Everyone has conditions. What are yours?" "I don't want to know what you do for a living," Precious says firmly. "I'm there for the boys. Nothing else." Jason agrees. It's a lie they both need to believe, if only for a moment. The Moretti compound is nothing like Precious expected. The mansion sits in the city's most exclusive neighborhood, but it's not opulent. It's fortified. Security cameras track every angle. Guards patrol the perimeter. The walls are reinforced concrete disguised as elegant stone. Every window is bulletproof. It looks like a palace. It functions like a fortress. Jason gives her a tour, his wheelchair navigating the wide hallways with practiced ease. He introduces her to Mrs. Chun, the housekeeper, who looks at Precious with something like relief. "The boys need someone gentle," Mrs. Chun whispers when Jason is out of earshot. "They've had so much harshness." The triplet suite of rooms takes up the entire east wing. 3 bedrooms connected to a massive playroom filled with expensive toys that look barely touched. Everything is pristine, sterile, more like a showroom than a space where children live. Precious changes that immediately. She establishes routines, structured meals at the kitchen table instead of eating in their rooms, outdoor playtime in the secured garden, early bedtimes with stories and songs. She notices everything. Marco flinches at loud noises. Luca hides food in his pockets like he's afraid there won't be more. Matteo wets the bed and tries to hide the evidence. These are trauma responses. Deep ones. She also notices Jason. He watches his sons through doorways but rarely enters. He hovers at the edges of their lives like a ghost, present but not engaged, as if he's afraid of his own children, or afraid of what getting close to them might cost. That evening, after the boys are bathed and in pajamas, Precious confronts him in the hallway outside their rooms. "When's the last time you read them a story?" she asks. Jason's jaw tightens. "I don't," he stops. Starts again. "I don't know how to be around them. Not without." He doesn't finish, but Precious understands. Not without their mother. She sees past the crime lord, past the wheelchair, the tattoos, the danger that radiates from him like heat. She sees a grieving widower who lost his wife and doesn't know how to be a father without her. "They don't need you to be perfect," Precious says gently. "They need you to be present." That night, Jason sits awkwardly on the floor of his son's bedroom, his wheelchair parked by the door, his body positioned on the carpet among scattered toys, while Precious reads, "Where the Wild Things Are." The boys unconsciously reach for both adults. Marco's hand finds his father's. Luca leans against Precious's shoulder. Matteo falls asleep with his head in Jason's lap. And for the first time since his wife died, Jason feels like he might actually be a father instead of just a provider of security and money. Precious's willful ignorance about Jason's world lasts exactly 5 days. She overhears a phone conversation in his study. Jason's voice cold and clinical. "Handle it. I don't care how. He stole from us. Make an example. She sees men arrive at the house with blood on their clothes, speaking in low, urgent Italian while Jason listens and gives orders with terrifying calm. One afternoon, she walks into his study looking for the boys' vaccination records and finds Jason with 3 men she doesn't recognize. They're discussing territorial disputes, retaliation strategies, someone named Rossini, who needs to be reminded of boundaries. Jason looks up, sees her face. The exact moment her denial shatters. He dismisses the men with a gesture. The silence that follows is heavy. "You run the Mafia," Precious says. Not a question. A statement. Jason doesn't insult her intelligence with denials. "Yes. You hurt people. You kill people." "Yes." His voice is flat, unapologetic. "This is who I am. I provide for my sons. I protect them. Everything else is just business." Precious feels sick. Those boys deserve better than growing up in a world of violence. "Those boys are alive because of the world I built," Jason counters. "You think people like the Rossinis respect kindness? You think compassion stopped them from trying to kidnap my sons? So you'll teach them that violence is the answer? That fear is power. I'll teach them to survive." Precious turns to leave, but Jason's voice stops her. "You knew. Some part of you knew what I was from the moment I broke down your door. You just didn't want to see it." She doesn't respond because he's right. That night, Marco has a nightmare, screaming, thrashing, inconsolable. Precious rushes to his room and finds him crying for nice lady, terrified that she's left like everyone else. She holds him, rocks him, sings softly until he calms. Jason appears in the doorway, watching, utterly helpless. This is a problem he can't solve with money or violence. His son is breaking, and he has no tools to fix it. After Marco finally sleeps, Precious tells Jason with quiet intensity, "I'll stay. For them. Not for you. But if they're ever in danger because of what you do, if they're ever exposed to violence or used as weapons in your business, I'll take them so far away you'll never find them." It's an empty threat. She has no power here. They both know it. But Jason, for the first time in years, feels genuine fear. Not of enemies. Not of death. Fear of losing his son's only chance at normalcy. Their only chance at having one person in their lives who believes children deserve safety, softness, love. "Understood," he says quietly. Days become weeks. Precious maintains firm boundaries. She cares for the boys but doesn't attend family dinners, doesn't engage with Jason beyond necessary conversations about the children, doesn't ask about his business. But she notices changes. Jason starts coming home earlier. He cancels meetings to have dinner with his sons. He asks Precious to teach him how to play with them, how to get on their level literally and figuratively. One evening, she finds him on the floor of the playroom, his wheelchair abandoned, building an elaborate block tower with the triplets. His expensive suit is wrinkled, there's marker on his hands, and he's actually laughing at something Luca said. It's the first time she's seen him fully unguarded. Later, after the boys are asleep, Jason finds her in the kitchen preparing bottles for the next morning. He lingers in the doorway, then wheels closer. "Tell me about L.A., he says. Precious is surprised by the genuine curiosity in his voice. She talks about growing up in a cramped apartment with her mother and 3 siblings, about watching her mother, a nurse, work herself to exhaustion helping people who couldn't pay. About her mother's death from preventable illness because they couldn't afford better care. "That's why you became a social worker," Jason says. "It's not a question. Someone has to care about the people everyone else forgets." She pauses, then asks, "Why do you do what you do?" "The Mafia life." Jason is quiet for a long moment. "My father was a soldier in the organization. Low level. We had nothing. He was beaten to death over a $50 debt when I was 12. His voice is clinical, detached. "I learned young that in this world, you're either powerful or you're prey. There's no middle ground." "That's not true," Precious argues. "There are people who choose neither. Who choose to build instead of destroy. And they get crushed by people like me," Jason says, but there's no satisfaction in his voice. Only exhaustion. Is that what you want for your sons? To become crushers? To live in constant fear that someone will do to them what was done to your father? Jason looks at her with an intensity that makes her breath catch.
No.
I want them to be like you. I want them to believe the world can be good. I want them to build things instead of burning them down. He pauses. But I don't know how to give them that. I only know one way to survive. Then learn a different way, Precious says softly. They need you to try. Something shifts between them in that moment. A recognition. A connection neither of them wants but can't deny. Jason wheels closer. Why do you care so much about broken things? Nothing's actually broken, Precious whispers. Some things just need time and love to heal. Jason looks at his sons sleeping peacefully down the hall, then back at her. And for a moment, Precious sees the man he could have been, would have been, if circumstances had been different. The chapter ends with Precious realizing she's no longer just staying for the boys. She's staying for him too. And that terrifies her more than anything else in this dangerous world. Jason's feelings for Precious intensify into something he can't control or compartmentalize. He finds excuses to be near her, checking on the boys when he knows she's reading to them, asking her opinion on matters that have nothing to do with childcare, watching her in the garden with his sons, and feeling his carefully constructed walls crumbling. He catches himself doing things he hasn't done in years, smiling without calculation, laughing without purpose, imagining a future that doesn't revolve around territory and power. One night, after the boys are asleep, he finds Precious in the garden. The security lights cast long shadows across the manicured lawn. She's sitting on a bench, looking exhausted. Long day, he asks, wheeling to a stop beside her. Marco asked about his mother today, Precious says quietly. I didn't know what to tell him. Jason is silent for a moment. Her name was Isabella.
She was soft.
Like you. Too good for someone like me. His voice roughens. She died bringing them into the world, and I couldn't save her. All my power, all my resources, and I couldn't save the only person who ever made me want to be better. Precious reaches out, places her hand over his. You're doing it now. Being better. For them. Jason turns his hand, threading his fingers through hers.
No.
You're doing it. I'm just trying not to destroy what you're building. Jason. You make me want to try, he says, the words raw and honest. I don't know if I can change. I don't know if men like me get second chances. But you make me want to believe it's possible. Precious knows she should pull away, should maintain her boundaries, should remember that this man's hands are stained with violence and blood. But she doesn't. Jason leans in, and she meets him halfway. Their kiss is hesitant, careful, charged with impossible longing and terrible timing. When they break apart, Precious is shaking. I can't be part of this world, she whispers. You hurt people. Your business destroys lives. I know. Jason's voice is rough. I know what I am. I'm not asking you to accept it. I'm just asking you not to leave yet. But before Precious can respond, Jason's phone rings. His face goes hard instantly, the crime lord snapping back into place, displacing the vulnerable man she just kissed. What? He answers. Then his expression darkens. How many? A pause. Double security on the house. No one gets within a block of my sons. He ends the call and looks at Precious with eyes gone cold. The Rossinis hit one of our shipments. Killed 3 of my men. Jason. This is war now, he says flatly. You and the boys stay inside. Armed guards on every entrance. No one leaves the compound. Precious watches him wheel away, already on another call, issuing orders in Italian. The man she just kissed has vanished, replaced by Don Moretti, ruthless, calculating, dangerous. Later that night, Jason's consigliera Vincent corners him in his study. They know about her, about the social worker, and they know your sons are attached to her. What are you saying? I'm saying she's made you weak. You're distracted. You're vulnerable. Vincent's voice is hard. In a war, vulnerabilities get exploited. She's a liability. Jason's response is swift and violent. He grabs Vincent by the throat, his strength belied by his seated position. Say that again. I dare you. Vincent pulls back, hands raised. Boss, I'm loyal to you. But if I can see it, so can the Rossinis. She's a target now. They'll use her to break you. After Vincent leaves, Jason sits alone in his study, Vincent's words echoing in his mind. He makes a decision. He distances himself from Precious. No more late-night conversations. No more lingering looks. No more allowing himself to feel what he feels. It's the only way to keep her safe. Precious feels the shift immediately. Jason becomes cold, professional, remote. He avoids her, communicates only through Mrs. Chun, doesn't join them for meals. And despite knowing it's safer this way, despite knowing she should be relieved, Precious aches from his absence. She's fallen in love with a man whose hands are stained with blood, whose world is built on violence, who could never be what she needs. But her heart doesn't care about logic or safety or moral absolutes. Her heart only knows that when Jason looks at his sons, she sees the man he could become. And when he looked at her, she felt seen in a way she's never experienced. The chapter ends with both of them lying awake in separate parts of the mansion, trapped by circumstances neither can control, loving each other in ways they can't afford to acknowledge. The attack comes on a Tuesday afternoon. Precious takes the boys to a children's museum, their first outing beyond the compound walls in 3 weeks. Jason reluctantly approves it because the boys are climbing the walls with cabin fever, and Precious argues that letting them be children is more important than paranoia. 2 of Jason's best bodyguards accompany them. Former military, highly trained, constantly alert. It's not enough. In the museum parking lot, as they're loading the boys into the armored SUV, 3 vehicles screech to a stop, blocking their exit. Armed men pour out, 8 of them, wearing masks, moving with tactical precision. The bodyguards react instantly, drawing weapons, positioning themselves between the attackers and their charges. Gunfire erupts. Precious screams at the boys to get down, shielding them with her body, trying to push them under the vehicle. But the Rossini soldiers don't want the children. They want her. 2 men grab Precious, wrenching her away from the screaming triplets. She fights viciously, kicking, biting, scratching. One attacker backhands her hard enough that stars explode across her vision. Mama P. Marco shrieks, trying to run to her. One bodyguard, bleeding from a shoulder wound, holds him back. The last thing Precious sees before a cloth covers her face and chemicals flood her lungs is 3 identical little boys crying for her, their faces mirrors of absolute terror. Jason is in a meeting with his accountants when the call comes. His head of security's voice is wrecked. Boss, they took her. The Rossinis took Precious. The boys are safe, but... Jason doesn't hear the rest. The phone drops from his hand. For 3 seconds, the most dangerous man in the city can't breathe, can't think, can't move. Then he explodes into action. Everyone out, he snaps at the accountants.
Now.
Within minutes, his war room fills with his top lieutenants. Maps spread across tables. Weapons checked. Every asset mobilized. Vincent tries to counsel Patience's strategy. Boss, they want you to react emotionally. They'll use her to lure you into a trap, destroy you. Jason's hand moves faster than anyone can track. His gun presses against Vincent's forehead. Say one more word about strategy, and I'll paint this room with your brain. Vincent pales but stands firm. A broken man can't run an empire. That's what they're counting on. Jason lowers the gun slowly. When he speaks, his voice is terrifyingly calm. Then I'll destroy them first. And if I have to burn my empire to the ground to get her back, I'll do it. Are we clear? The room goes silent. No one has ever heard Don Jason Moretti prioritize a person over the organization. Not once. Not ever. Mrs. Chun brings the triplets in, all 3 hysterical, traumatized, crying for Mama P. Jason gathers them as best he can from his wheelchair, letting them climb into his lap, holding them while they sob. I'll bring her back, he promises them. I swear on my life, I'll bring her back. Then he kisses each of their heads and hands them to Mrs. Chun. Keep them safe. If anything happens to me, there's a trust. They'll be provided for. He looks at his men, 20 of them, armed, dangerous, loyal. We're going to the Rossini stronghold. We're not negotiating. We're not strategizing. We're going to war. Precious wakes in darkness, her head pounding, her wrists zip-tied to a metal chair. The warehouse around her is abandoned, industrial, cold. Water drips somewhere in the distance. A door opens. Light spills in. A man walks toward her, 50s, expensive suit, cold eyes. Antonio Rossini. Ms. Adeyemi, he says pleasantly. I apologize for the rough treatment. But you've become quite important to Jason Moretti, and that makes you valuable to me. He'll come for me, Precious says, trying to sound braver than she feels. I'm counting on it. Antonio smiles. You see, your death will break him. And a broken man can't run an empire. His organization will fracture. His territories will be vulnerable. And I'll take everything he's built. You don't know him. Oh, but I do. I've studied Jason Moretti for years. The wheelchair makes people underestimate him, but he's the most dangerous man in this city. Ruthless.
Strategic.
Unbreakable. Antonio leans closer. Until now. Until you're his weakness. And in our world, weaknesses are fatal. Precious tries to slow her racing heart, tries to think. The boys are unharmed. I'm not a monster. Antonio straightens. They'll be fine. Traumatized, certainly, but they'll live. It's you he'll trade everything for. It's you he'll die for. The chapter ends with Precious alone in the darkness, praying that Jason doesn't do something stupid. And knowing, with terrible certainty, that he absolutely will. Jason's assault on the Rossini stronghold is biblical in its violence. He doesn't call ahead, doesn't negotiate, doesn't posture. He brings 20 armed men and declares war. The Rossini compound, a sprawling warehouse complex on the waterfront, erupts into chaos. Jason's men move through it like a plague, ruthless and absolute. The wheelchair doesn't slow him. If anything, it makes him more terrifying. He moves through the carnage with cold efficiency, directing his men, taking shots himself, leaving bodies in his wake. The violence is graphic, unrelenting, and utterly devoid of mercy. He tears through Rossini soldiers until he reaches the warehouse, where they're holding Precious. Antonio Rossini is waiting, gun pressed to Precious's temple, using her as a human shield. Moretti, Antonio calls out. Drop your weapon, or I paint the walls with her brain. Jason's men fan out behind him, weapons trained, waiting for orders. Jason meets Precious's eyes across the warehouse. She's terrified but fighting it, her chin raised in defiance, even with a gun to her head. Let her go, Jason says, his voice deadly calm. This is between us.
No.
This is about showing the city that you're weak. That sentiment makes you vulnerable. That. I'll give you my territories, Jason interrupts. All of them. The docks, the casinos, the routes. Everything. Just let her go. His men freeze, shocked. Vincent, who came despite everything, stares at Jason like he doesn't recognize him. Don Moretti never surrenders. Never negotiates from weakness. Never. Jason lets his gun clatter to the floor. Take it all, he says, wheeling forward slowly, hands raised. Take my empire. Just don't hurt her. Antonio laughs, triumphant. You actually love her. I thought it was strategy, but you actually... Yes, Jason says simply. So take what you want, but let her go. In that moment, Precious sees the complete, devastating truth. Jason Moretti loves her enough to sacrifice everything. His power, his empire, his life. For her. Antonio, drunk on victory, makes a fatal mistake. He gloats too long. Precious, remembering self-defense training from her social work program, makes a split-second decision. She drops her weight suddenly, turning her body into dead weight, throwing off Antonio's aim. The gun discharges, the bullet missing her head by inches. Jason moves instantly. One shot. Center mass. Antonio Rossini drops. Chaos erupts, Rossini soldiers opening fire, Jason's men returning it. the warehouse becoming a war zone. Jason wheels to Precious, cutting her zip ties with a knife he pulls from his chair. "Can you run?" he asks urgently. "No, but I can walk fast," she gasps. Jason pulls her close, shielding her with his body as his men extract them. The violence around them is deafening. Gunfire, screaming, bodies falling. They make it to the SUV. Jason's driver peels out, tires screaming, bullets pinging off the armored exterior. In the back seat, Precious collapses against Jason, both of them shaking with adrenaline and relief and terror. "I'm sorry," Jason says, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry you saw that. I'm sorry you know what I really am." Precious, still trembling, frames his face with her hands. "I saw a father who loves his sons. I saw a man who'd sacrifice everything. I saw you, Jason. The real you. I was willing to give up everything for you," he whispers. "My empire, my power, my life. Everything." "I know." She kisses him, hard, desperate, real. "I know." They arrive home to find the triplets inconsolable, crying for both of them. The moment Precious enters, all three boys launch themselves at her, sobbing, clinging, afraid she'll disappear again. Jason watches his family, because that's what they are now, whether they meant for it to happen or not, and realizes that for the first time in his life, he has something worth more than power. He has something worth living for. The aftermath is complicated. Jason has won the war with the Rossinis, but at tremendous cost. Other crime families question his judgment. His willingness to sacrifice his territories for a woman makes him look weak, vulnerable. Some of his own lieutenants express concern. Vincent resigns as consigliere. "You're not the man I swore loyalty to anymore," he says without anger. "And maybe that's not a bad thing. But it's not my world anymore." Jason promotes someone younger, a strategist who understands that times are changing, that brute force alone no longer guarantees survival. He begins delegating operational control, stepping back from day-to-day violence. He focuses instead on the financial and strategic elements, legitimate businesses, investments, expansion that doesn't require bloodshed. It's not redemption. He's still a crime lord. His hands are still stained. But it's transformation. Precious stays, but establishes non-negotiable boundaries. The boys will never witness violence. They will never be involved in the business. They will be raised with normal childhoods, school, friends, activities, despite their father's world. Jason agrees to all of it. 6 months later, they've found their rhythm. The triplets call Precious Mama P now. They've stopped flinching at loud noises. Marco no longer wets the bed. Luca doesn't hoard food. Matteo laughs freely. Jason has learned to be present, not perfect, but present. He reads bedtime stories every night, plays in the garden, attends their preschool functions, with security at a discreet distance. He's teaching his sons that strength means protecting people, not hurting them. Precious has opened a community center for at-risk children, funded through Jason's carefully laundered investments. She works there 3 days a week, the other days devoted to the boys. One evening, she finds Jason in the living room, his wheelchair parked, his body on the floor with all 3 boys piled on top of him like puppies, all of them asleep after a movie marathon. She stands in the doorway, taking in the scene. This complicated, messy, morally gray family they've built. Jason is still a crime lord. She hasn't fixed him, hasn't redeemed him, hasn't washed the blood from his hands. But he's trying. Every day, he's trying to be better. For his sons. For her. For himself. She thinks about her mother's words. The world isn't divided into good people and bad people. It's divided into people who try to be better and people who've stopped trying. Jason is trying. And maybe Precious thinks that's enough. Maybe love isn't about finding someone perfect. Maybe it's about finding someone willing to grow, willing to change, willing to fight for what matters. She joins them on the floor, and Jason's eyes open. He smiles, soft, real, unguarded. "Hey," he whispers, careful not to wake the boys. "Hey yourself." She kisses him gently. "You're getting good at this. I have a good teacher." They sit together in the quiet, their impossible families stitched together from violence and compassion, fear and love, darkness and light. It's messy. It's complicated. It's morally gray. But it's real. And in a world that doesn't believe in second chances, they've built something that matters. A family bound together not by blood or obligation, but by choice, commitment, and relentless, imperfect love. Thank you for watching.